My man.
Hey, Cory.
Are you back home?
Well, I'm in Greece, which is my home for now, yes.
We're home for now. I thought that's where y'all live.
Yeah, but that was brought about by the pandemic, so it was never meant to be permanent, which was one of the reasons
really?
One of the reasons we went back to the UAE last week was to do a bit of a recce to see what opportunities might be available back in the Middle East. We will go where we're required. Have laptop will travel. Welcome to the Pilote podcast. It's May 2022. I'm David Fuller, and this week Cory Smith and I talk about lies, damn lies, statistics, TikTok, and whether NFTs can be used in the real world yet.
How long can you stay in the UAE without can you just stay as long as you want, or is it what's the situation?
They've changed their rules post-pandemic, so they have got a whole bunch of new visas which allow investors to stay longer. Previously, you had to have an employment visa. So basically, you had to be employed by somebody in the UAE, and your employer was your sponsor, and you had a visa based on your employment. Otherwise, you could go in as a tourist for 30 days, but you'd have to leave every 30 days to renew that visa, and technically, you're not supposed to work.
Interesting.
But they've changed all those rules now. So, if you own property, you potentially have access to what they call a golden visa. They've launched a bunch of digital nomad visas that allow people to be employed by companies outside of the UAE, but live in the UAE, live and work in the UAE.
Really?
So
interesting.
We definitely spoke about the Indian crypto tax, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was in our first podcast ever we spoke about the Indian crypto tax. Dubai and the UAE have been quite clever and said, we know that there are a lot of very smart crypto people in India. They don't want to pay crypto tax. So, hey, why don't all you really smart coders, Solidity people, Python people, crypto people, why don't you all come and live in the UAE and you don't have to pay your Indian crypto tax? Very interesting.
It is interesting.
That it's basically the type of regime where the boss says this is the way it will be, and that's the way it will be. It doesn't have to be debated by a Congress or the Senate.
Right. Whatever. Well, I was having this conversation. The interesting things I learned from David, and it kind of reminds me of the conversation we were having about working in Dubai, where there is no legacy technology.
Yeah.
There's no, you don't have to worry about anything old. This kind of reminds me of that. It's well, we're just going to go ahead and change things on a dime and pivot. Oh, the world's changed, the culture's changed, and we're going to go ahead and change with it and be able to turn on a dime.
They do have a strategy. In fact, they've got multiple strategies, and they spend a lot of time planning for the future. But I guess, like I said, the difference is that there isn't necessarily a democratic system of two houses of parliament. And
that certainly makes it easier, doesn't it?
And therefore, yeah, if they do need to change, if they do need to pivot, they can, a bit like an executive order in the US, the president can just make an order and it happens. It's
kind of nice.
All good when the president's a nice guy, but when there's regime change for whatever reason, who knows what might happen. Speaking of, my weekend plans were scuppered last weekend because one of the reasons I went to the UAE was to go to the Dubai Offshore Sailing Club end of season Raft Up, which effectively what they do is they take a whole bunch of boats and they moor them stern to stern in a sort of a sunflower shape, and it creates a lagoon in the middle and creates from above this sort of star shape of boats all pointing outwards. Friday, it was meant to be on Saturday, and on Friday I received the shocking news, terrible news that had been cancelled because it was going to be too windy. And then later in the day, it was announced that the president of the UAE and Sheikh of Abu Dhabi had actually died.
Really?
And so the country has gone into mourning. So 3 days of official mourning where government offices are closed and music is not allowed on the radio and a whole bunch of other different things. There's been different levels of mourning in neighboring states, whether that be Oman or Bahrain or Saudi. But yeah, he was 73 years old. He was the Sheikh of Sheikh of Abu Dhabi and the president of the UAE, and technically Abu Dhabi is the capital of the UAE, and that's where the government sits. The Crown Prince has been named the new president of the UAE, and to be fair, he's been doing a lot of the duties for a long time. The Sheikh who died hasn't been seen in public for a while. Had a stroke a few years ago. And,
Interesting.
How's your week been?
Well, eventful. As I don't know if I shared with you, I had a small fire here at the house on Monday.
Oh, I did see that.
I woke up Monday morning early to the smoke alarm going off, which of course, if you've ever had anything probably not similar to this, but you know, when you're asleep and you hear something and you don't know if it's in your dream or if it's real. And then my dog jumped in the bed. It woke me up. And then of course I realized it was real when the whole house was filled with smoke. And I ran down here to the office because I was actually going to the kitchen thinking that the fire was in the kitchen. Realized it was actually in my office, that the power strips under my computer desk had caught on fire, and the wall and the carpet was on fire here under my desk.
Wow.
And of course I got it out.
Are they fused? I mean, in the UK, those power strips have got fuses in circuit breakers and fuses in them.
Well, that's the problem, Dave. So I'm gonna own up to it, and maybe you have a similar situation. So I have a big like plastic tub in the garage filled with power strips that I've probably had since like 1988. And this is certainly one of those. Since we're only on an audio podcast, I can't share the picture, but the picture of the power strip that I used, the last plug where that actually caught on fire just disintegrated. I think it was just so old that it just gave out and set itself on fire. Thankfully, I was here. It didn't happen a week before when I was in Texas. It would certainly have burned the house down. But I was here and was able to put it out with my hands. I didn't even burn myself miraculously. I did actually put it out with my hands. Just went, the house stunk for a week.
But I did buy a power strip. We call them power boards, but power strip last year for my father-in-law's TV, and actually spent the extra $5 for one that actually has a fuse and a circuit breaker in it.
All the new ones do, right? Or is that like you have to pay extra for it?
I think you've got your generics. Yeah, if you pay a little bit extra, sometimes it's worth paying a little bit extra.
Right. Yeah. But I think from now on, I'll pay extra.
It didn't trip the main fuse board in your house?
Oh yeah, it did. Okay. It did. All the power in my office was off, which of course I didn't figure out till later. Okay. Because I was like, why aren't the lights coming and the fan coming on? But it did trip the breaker, but by the time it had already caught fire. And of course, the power strips are on the floor next to the wall, so it caught the carpet and the wall on fire.
This is your public service announcement. Pilote Podcast brings you public service announcement. Check your power boards and make sure that they're inspected.
Yes. Election season has begun once again.
There's elections in Australia at the moment as well, so I'm sort of keeping an eye. Federal election in Australia. I think it's this coming weekend. Might be over by the time this gets published. I mean, we've said it before. It just seems to be something, I don't know, fundamentally wrong with politics in the world. It's so shameless and grubby and horrible. I mean, there was always smear ads and all of that kind of stuff. It just seems to have gone to another level of tribalism and grubbiness.
It's crazy. Well, and then and I'm sure you've seen, it's probably everywhere in the world. We've got another resurgence of mass shootings in the U.S. That's always fun.
Yeah. We won't touch that one. I've got very. I refer to Jim Jeffries on that one. He says it a lot more clearly than I can.
Yes, he does. The only thing I will say about it, it seems to be cyclical.
Right.
Like there's like a season for it. Like something, I don't know what obviously there's some other trigger for it, but there seems to be a time of year that these things happen when the warmer months happen, these things tend to happen more frequently.
There's a point where I just do not watch the news because it's so horribly depressing. I listen to my favorite podcasts and I get a little bit of news from here and there, and I try not to go on Twitter too much. Some movement on the Twitter deal this week as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think I read that Elon Musk is trying to like back out of it now.
Yeah, which according to some commentators, he was never really serious anyway, and he was always looking for any reason to get out. But I guess the biggest problem is that there's been such a correction in the stock market since he made the offer that he's paying way over the odds. And if he'd waited 3 weeks, the price might have come down quite a bit.
Really? I did not read that.
Well, I mean, Netflix is down, Apple is down. We spoke last week.
Oh, yeah, because
coincidentally, you ran into Aramco, and the same day, Aramco became the most valuable company in the world because of the Apple price.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, well, the stock market has continued to tank. A very good friend of mine works for AWS, and they offer stock as part of their incentive package, right, for their compensation. And it's a huge bit because they make that's what keeps you there for the 4 years, right? So your stock vests. And he told me, I think last week, that he saw his stock drop $100,000.
Wow.
And I was like, well, you just lost $100,000 in compensation. How does that feel?
Well, technically, you're supposed to be there longer than 4 years, I guess, for that to make sense. I think Unilever used to offer stock as well, but that was back when Unilever was a blue chip stock on the stock market, and these days I don't think it moves very much. Netflix announced some redundancies today. There's a lot going on.
Did Netflix also announced, and I have to look it back up again, some new policy, and they were like, to their employees, they're like, yeah, if you don't like it, you can quit.
One way of doing redundancies without having to do
right. I think that was the point of that, is like they were like, yeah, like that. I think that was the point, was like, hey, we're gonna really just kind of put this is our policy, and if you don't like it, you can find another job.
Just like Zoom is now enforcing the 40-minute limit for free accounts. So
is that new?
What Zoom used to do is, when their share price was doing well and they were doing fine, is that they would send you a little message on the screen saying, you've gone over your 40 minutes, but that's fine. We're nice. We'll let you keep going. And now they just sort of say, you've got 10 minutes left. We're going to cut you off. Thanks for listening. If you subscribe via your favorite podcast app, then you'll get the latest episodes automatically every Sunday. You can also check out our YouTube channel for outtakes and bonus content. I went to this conference last week, I said, the Innovation Summit.
Uh-huh.
And there are a few companies there that are in the NFT business. A friend of mine's got a project in Dubai, and he's looking to fund it and build it out. And it's one of those projects that is right on the cusp between, you could do it as a traditional membership model, or as a kind of a Patreon model, or you could do it as an NFT model, or you could do it as a hybrid. But advising him as to which route to go down, the end consumer for this service are fairly normal people. I think it's way too early. Even though it'd be a really interesting case study, it's just way too early for normal people to do it as an NFT. And so we'll probably end up doing it as a traditional membership model, offer a few lifetime memberships, some high-end tiered memberships, and then at some point in the future, when NFTs become more used by the general population, anyone who's a lifetime member will get airdropped an NFT, and whatever will migrate it into an NFT project.
Unless the audience for it is the audience that solely uses that, right? Because is there really even any value in doing a hybrid model at this point to get like two people that are using it?
So the other thing I want to understand, and I don't know, this is a genuine question, I need someone in the business to be able to tell me how this works, is how do you, I can understand if you turn your Twitter profile into an NFT, or you're providing online services that can do a block on-chain lookup and say, yes, this person has this NFT and therefore they're entitled to these services based on smart contracts or whatever. What I don't understand is how you take that NFT into the real world. Let's use a golf club as an example. Let's say that you turn memberships for the golf club into NFTs. How do you, at the gate of the golf club or at the bar of the golf club, how do you verify that NFT is owned by the person says that they own it? I don't know how it translates into real. You'd have to have some Web2 mechanism It basically says this NFT on the blockchain equals this QR code equals this record in our membership system. And if that's the case, then what's the point of the NFT?
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of verification method.
So the blockchain is the verification method that, yes, you own it, it's on the blockchain, but how do you how do you tell a security guard that the NFT is what it is?
It's right, it's legit. And that you're the person that owns it.
Right. So it's not like a bearer bond or a membership card. It's
right.
It works really well for a metaverse style user case, but I just can't see how it works in the real world without a Web2 interface.
Well, that's a really interesting question that I had never thought about, because like you said, if it's a QR code and you scan it, well, anybody could take a picture of the QR code, share it. Anybody could use it then, right? There's got to be some sort of secondary identity and access management methodology that allows you to connect your identity with that NFT. Right.
Which maybe is a wallet or some sort of blockchain wallet. But I don't know how practically that works at reception. How does a receptionist or a security guard or somebody validate that membership?
You could technologically do it with the QR code.
Yeah,
I'm probably overcomplicating this.
Or an NFC chip or a bunch of other things, but they're all Web2 technologies. They're not Web3.
Well, if you wanted to do it the easy way, you could do that. You could create an application that every time you wanted to use that, it would create a new QR code, and that somebody could then scan it on the other end with their phone, which would not require any new technology, right? Like you wouldn't have to build anything new. Yeah. So like somebody could just take a picture with it, like a security guard. It would open a web application, and then
QR that would have a picture of you on record, and they would look at the person, just like you do on a passport. They'd look at the passport, they'd look at the screen, and they say, yes, this is the same person.
Correct. Yeah. And that's the easy way to do it.
But it's Web2 technology, not Web3 technology.
No, that's Web2 technology. That's right. I mean, there's more sophisticated ways I can think of that you could truly guarantee identity and access management.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got this.
But you don't mind. Why would you need that for that use?
The only reason I'd consider this in this particular user case, the NFTs in this particular user case, is that it's a way of raising funds without giving away equity. Yeah. So if you sell 100 NFTs at 27 grand each, or $2,700 each, then you raise yourself $250,000, but you don't have to give away any shares in the company. That's the only benefit that there really is of the NFT right now. And
then you give away some sort of exclusive membership, something with the NFT.
Well, the membership packages wouldn't change, right? That's a combination of you have your tiers, and each tier has certain benefits. And like I said, that could be done on Patreon. So really that could be done on Patreon or Memberly. It doesn't have to be done using an NFT.
Right. So really, that's what you're selling, right? Is the membership, and the NFT is just a way to communicate the membership.
Yeah, it's just the next gen of membership, which some people, a lot of people are doing. And I guess that's this utility element of NFTs rather than the artwork.
Yeah, I met some ladies here at the last Future of meetup here in Atlanta that are actually doing the same thing. They're creating a kind of, this is going to be the wrong way to describe it, but kind of a kind of an exclusive club for women in business, or business women, or professional women.
There's a couple of those out there already. One called World of Women, I think, and there's a couple of others.
And they were talking about it at the last meetup, because last meetup was about Web3, which I surprisingly stayed kind of quiet about at the meeting. Well, there was a woman there who actually teaches at the university here, Georgia State, and that's her area of expertise. That's what she teaches. And so what she largely talked about during or the beginning of the conversation, which they're always great, was largely the things that everybody thinks about, that we always bitch about with Web3, right? Which is like NFTs and the Beanie Baby trading card factor, and the lowest common denominator stuff.
Virtual real estate.
But then she kind of dug into it, and I'm like, oh, she really does. She like that. Not that I doubted her. Like, she really knew her stuff. They all have similar questions because nobody really knows. Like to the point of why we started this podcast, nobody really gets it. Like they're all curious. They all want to know more. But and these women who were talking about starting this club, which is why they came to this meeting, was to learn more about it, is they're like, there's just no resources that are out there that are accessible to people that aren't hugely technical to help us understand this stuff.
Keep in touch with our thoughts on social media. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Links are in the show notes. And we're back. Yes.
So what's next on the agenda?
Oh, there was a really interesting report that came out. I don't know when it came out, but I saw it in the last couple of days by the Web3 VC, Andreessen Horowitz. Have you heard of this guy?
Yes, I have, but
some people like him and some people don't. He's got a weird website. It's called A16Z or something.
Yeah.
But I think he's been around for a while. He invested in Stripe, which is
right. That's how I know him.
Which is pre-web. It's not exactly a Web3 company. It's more of a DeFi company. But anyway, they released a report today, 2022 State of Crypto. There's some interesting stuff in it. The thing that I thought was perhaps the most interesting, we've spoken about they call it take rates. So this Web3, one of the pillars of Web3, I guess, is that the creator economy, one of these days I'll go into why I think the creator economy is a silly idea. But for now, let's take what one of the biggest VCs in the space is talking about. Let me read from this. The take rates of Web2 giants are extortionate. Web3 platforms offer fairer economic terms. Compare Meta's nearly 100% take rate across Facebook and Instagram to NFT marketplaces OpenSea's 2.5%. As U.S. Congressman Richie Torres noted in a recent op-ed, something is profoundly wrong with our economy when big tech has a higher take rate than the mafia. So I'm not sure it's exactly fair to compare Instagram with an NFT marketplace. There's a different value chain and there's a different utility going on. The reason that you put something on Instagram, the reason I put something on Instagram is to have a bit of fun and just talk to our friends or put something out there. I'm not expecting to be compensated for putting an image on Instagram, and I never really have been, never really expected to be compensated for it. So I don't think creating an artwork, which is what they call these NFTs, is the same as posting a pic on Instagram. But it is fair to say that Facebook and Instagram are monetizing that content through their as an advertising platform. So you follow me because you like my pictures of the beach. You come and look at my feed, and interspersed with my feed, there are ads about the beach, which Facebook is taking 100% of, and I get no compensation, even though I'm the one who created the content. So in that sense, I can understand where they're coming from. Facebook, Meta, Instagram, Google, YouTube, whatever else, are taking a massive slice of the revenue created by content that's created by other people, even though those people never really thought they were going to be compensated anyway.
Right.
So the numbers are even more extraordinary considering how many more Web 2 versus Web 3 users they are. The analysts for this report counted 22,400 Web 3 creators based on the number of NFT collections, compared to nearly 3 billion users posting content on Meta platforms. Again, I don't think that's a useful comparison. Even if everybody did know how to create NFTs, they wouldn't necessarily want to. So, while in absolute terms, Spotify and YouTube paid out more to creators, 7 billion and 15 billion respectively. So Spotify is paying its creators $7 billion. YouTube is paying its YouTubers $15 billion, which is a small percentage of the actual advertising that they generate. The per capita disparity is striking. According to the analysts, Web3 paid out $174,000 per creator, while Meta paid out 10 cents per user. Spotify paid out $636 per artist. YouTube paid out $247 per channel. That is just statistics for statistics' sake.
Right.
Some YouTubers are paid millions and some YouTubers are paid nothing. So,
right.
And if they did the same analysis for Web3, so they're saying, according to our analysis, Web3 paid out $174,000 per creator. Well, actually, $127 million went to Bored Ape and zero went to everyone else.
Right,
but
that's right.
But if you average it, you get $174,000 per creator. And they've done the same maths with YouTube. So they said, there's 1 billion YouTube channels, and we're going to take all the revenue that YouTube has paid out and average it across every single YouTube channel, irrespective of whether it has 1 million users, 1 million subscribers, or 0 subscribers. It's just bad. It's just bad logic, don't you think?
Well, it's bait. It's bait.
It's published as a state of crypto by the biggest Web3 investor in the space.
What's the intended outcome? Well,
desire. They're trying to push the narrative, which is that Web2 is monopoly rent-seeking horribleness, and Web3 is different. But actually, that's not true at all.
No, I agree with that. It's just interesting that this is the format that they decided to take to kind of push this agenda.
This number at the end, according to our analysts, Web3 paid out $174,000 per creator. That's wrong. Let's just fact check that. Not every creator in Web3 got paid $174,000. That is an average. That is taking the entire revenue on OpenSea and dividing it by the number of creators. But that is wrong to say that every single Web3 creator got paid $174,000, because they didn't. Right.
It is fake news. But that's the way news is presented today, though. Like, I don't think this is dissimilar than just any kind of news is presented.
It comes back to this.
It's a half-truth.
We're being all Gen X about it, and we're being all grumpy old men about it, but just this lack of critical thinking and lack of education. Like you say, people would rather see a meme, or if somebody took that line, just that line, Web3 paid out $174,000 per creator, put that on a meme and stuck it on Twitter, there'd be a whole bunch of people thinking that they could quit their jobs and go and become a Web3 creator because they're going to make $174,000. They're not.
And I'm not arguing with you.
Why?
I completely agree.
Please, let's have a discussion about it.
Well, I think that the idea of that, what you're saying is correct, and I think that they're perpetuating this idea. It's certainly self-serving, but like people, they've been perpetuating this idea of like, you can quit your job and become a content creator and make a living for a long time, or a number of, like, I don't want to say Ponzi schemes, but internet get rich quick schemes.
A lot of them are,
right?
And that's the biggest problem I have with the creatify economy.
Right? Yeah,
is
100%.
that most people aren't creators.
No, but they think they are.
No, most people don't create content. Most people consume content. A very small percentage.
Yeah, I think. Well, you're right. Content. I think you're right. And I think that people that do create content and that become committed to it, once you find what it is that is unique to you and you find your voice, you can become a content creator. Like, my oldest son has a YouTube channel with tens of thousands of subscribers, and all he does, like, I want to make it sound like all he does. What he does is he travels around the southeastern United States and he films tornado sirens being tested. And that's his, and he's really interested in it. He's got a group of friends, and that's his thing. And he knows like every tornado siren in the South and what brand they are and all this stuff. And people follow him. I don't get it. But there's an audience.
That's a particularly train spotting kind of YouTube channel, that one.
Right. But like, obviously there's an audience for it. Like, if he'd have told me, hey, I want to, and that's not what he does for his job, right? That's just a hobby. But if he were to come to me and say, hey, I think I want to become a YouTube content creator and create this channel to do this as my job, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. You'll get a job.
But he should be earning revenue anyway. If he's got that many subscribers, there should be.
He is earning revenue, which is funny, but not enough for him to be quitting college and quitting his day job either.
Right.
It supports his habit.
Yeah. I love that. And I think, TikTok has done a really good job of bringing out people who otherwise would never have been discovered. There's one in the UK, which I love, because is it the guy in the next room? Where basically he's the voice in the ear of the politicians. He did really well. There was the woman who did the Trump impersonations without actually impersonating Trump.
Right.
Who was really good. And actually, you know how you said that you were into TikTok and you
yeah. Every day, man. I can't help myself.
I haven't logged in. So I actually downloaded the app. First time I've ever downloaded TikTok. I did it in Dubai, which was a mistake, because Dubai TikTok it's a car crash. It's a car crash. It's literally fires and buildings on fire and
really?
It's the worst of Dubai you can possibly think of. It's Botoxed so-called influencers. It's police reports. It's ambulance chasing. It's crypto Ponzi schemes. I haven't checked it out in Greece. I need to see what I get when I come back to Greece and see if it's
I never for a moment considered what the content. Of course, if I thought about it, it would have made sense. What the content, what the differences would be in different geographic regions. Because of course here it's like people doing the latest dance, the latest TikTok dance, or like funny cat and dog videos, or just like funny videos. It's like, it's nothing like really horrible. It's just entertaining.
Yeah. This is like, rubbernecking, but streamed live.
There's very little of that in my search. I mean, of course, the algorithm serves you kind of like what you like.
So that's the other interesting thing, right? Because I'm brand new to the platform. It's got nothing to work for.
Right.
So it doesn't know what I like. It doesn't know. I haven't put any interests in or anything like that, which is kind of interesting from an onboarding point of view, because when you join Twitter or you join Instagram, it has a sort of a onboarding wizard that says, okay, select 6 accounts before you continue. So when you start Twitter, it says, here's 6 recommended accounts, and type in your interests and we'll recommend you 6 more accounts. But you have to follow 5 or 6 people in the Twitter onboarding process in order to continue. And the same with Instagram. You kind of need to follow 5 or 6 accounts before you move on. And therefore it has a baseline to sort of say, okay, we'll start serving you X or Y. But TikTok doesn't. TikTok just literally starts sending you stuff near you without any filter. And it's horrible.
Wow. That's unfortunate. You had such a horrifying experience with it right out of the gate, man. TikTok, like we spoke before, is like TikTok is one of those platforms like Instagram that is just largely like a for good platform, like an entertaining or a pleasant. Whereas we feel like Twitter and largely Facebook.
I've seen some great TikTok stuff that's been repurposed to other social networks. Like I said, the woman who did the Trump impersonations. But yeah, it'll be a while before I start creating content for TikTok. I think I'm just not my. But I did download it. It just happened to be that I downloaded it in Dubai, and so I got the worst of Dubai in a feed. Every stereotype you imagine about Dubai, I've lived there for 5 years, and Dubai can be a really interesting place, And I was talking to a friend of mine today, actually, who's very close to the restaurant business in Dubai, and there's a lot of hidden gems, and there's a lot of fantastic everything from super 5-star celebrity chefs like Gordon Ramsay and Jason Atherton, and global celebrity chefs have got restaurants in Dubai, all the way down to locally grown Pakistani restaurants that serve street food to cabbies, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's got amazing, amazing food. But all the stereotypes are that it's just gluttony. The TikTok version of Dubai is Brits getting drunk at brunches And
Right.
whereas real Dubai is something completely different.
Well, we're gonna have to get you a better reintroduction to it.
I'm going to have to find some keywords or some stuff that I just need to retrain the algorithm.
Yeah, just to kind of put a bow on it. Like for me, TikTok is what I do. So my routine is work all day. My wife usually gets home from court 6:30. We eat dinner together. We watch a little bit of TV, and then she usually goes to bed 8:30, 9 o'clock, very early, because she gets up early, right, to go to court. And when she goes to bed, I go out back on the back porch and I'll sit and look at TikTok for 2 hours. It's candy. It's candy, right? It's brain candy.
I think I'd rather go and spend $50 on a new PlayStation game.
Right. Like, well, that's the thing. I haven't been playing game, but that's exactly what the alternative is. It would be like that, or to play a game or whatever. Like, I'm not really like, I don't want to sit in front of the tube. And, like these videos are just like 30 seconds or whatever. Like, it's just fun to just like slide through them. It's just, it's a time killer.
Oof.
You just have you've had a different experience.
I need to go back and start reading books again, I think.
Well, you just said a very good thing. He's like, you know what? The best thing for us both to do is just to read a book. Pull out the Kindle and read a book.
It's been really interesting. I don't want to gloat, but it's been really interesting to watch some of these people who drank the Kool-Aid and were on some sort of denial mission about cryptocurrency. We haven't even talked about USDT and Terra Luna in the last week, which was a massive blow to the industry. Cryptocurrency is like cocaine for them. They're just full on amphetamine. Can't say a bad thing about it. We've been reserved about it. We've been sort of saying, "Hey guys, look at the history, look at the part, learn from the past,
right?
Take it slow." Learn from what happened in the .com 1, learn from what happened in .com 2, learn from what happened in the global financial crisis, learn from what happened in every market crash ever, make some decisions, some wise decisions. Suddenly it's coming home to roost for some of these people.
Well, there's been a lot of, I've seen it on TikTok too, which is funny because I always think of like, you see things in like LinkedIn or in professional things, but when it makes it to TikTok, it's like somehow permeated the culture. A lot of people are like, crypto is going to tank. A lot of anti-crypto PR
from people who've lost all their savings.
No, like from
or from people who took out massive leveraged positions and are now in huge amounts of debt.
They're like, oh, once it comes out where, who is the market makers behind crypto, and the value will just plummet. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. My ears perk up when I hear news stories like this, because it's an obvious manipulation tactic, right? It's the same thing where in the last 3 or 4 months, you've seen a lot of stories. I think we talked about it on a previous podcast. A lot of stories out there of these tech leaders really pushing hard for people to come back to the office, even though that is counterintuitive to the entire world and culture.
I don't know what's happened to who's responsible for like insider trading and.
Oh yeah, that's the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Right, the SEC. So the original Wall Street film done by
Oliver Stone.
I mean, it was kind of taken out of context. This Gordon Gekko character who we've spoken about before was like, the bad guy. But it was actually like a lot of Oliver Stone films. It was actually a morality tale.
Yes.
It was actually about this young, greedy kid who throws his dad under the bus in order to, get himself an apartment in New York, and does deals with the devil in order to, in the pursuit of money rather than happiness. But at the end, he gets done, right? The SEC catch up with him and he goes to jail for insider trading. But for some weird reason, the SEC no longer has any teeth. They've tried it with Musk. Musk just says, so what, do your worst, and continues on. there's two things going on here. One is the fact that communication is getting to the point where the assumptions behind market economics are actually becoming true.
Yes.
So the assumptions behind market economics are that there's perfect information. Every buyer and seller knows everything in the market, all the information in the market. And the internet and Twitter and all of these things allow for instantaneous communication of all information to all parties within the market. But there seems to be massive manipulation of that information.
Absolutely.
The SEC have called out Musk before, and even in the most recent case where he thumbed his nose at the rules that said once he'd bought 5%, he was supposed to inform the SEC that he had a 5% stake, and he didn't. The market seemed to be broken.
Well, it was,
and that's in a regulated market, let alone crypto, which is an unregulated market.
Right. Well, that's the point. And like, how are they? Well, they can't even manage the regulated market that they have now. I mean, think about GameStop and AMC,
or the derivatives, or the concept of shorts. I mean, I think I don't think shorts existed when Wall Street, the original Wall Street, was made. There were certainly junk bonds.
Right.
This idea where you could basically sell off all the assets of the company, and that would be worth more than the value of the shares. But that wasn't shorting. So this idea of betting against a stock, selling a stock short, is kind of anathema to the whole idea of the stock market, which was to invest in companies to help them grow as opposed to bet against them. I still don't understand why Web3 and future world builders are just cloning the worst of our current world.
Right.
And not saying,
one.
Let's start with a blank sheet of paper and saying, okay, if we wanted to build utopia, why are we doing all the stuff that we know doesn't work, including central banks? So tokenomics has a concept of a central bank, which is why the founders of a certain project own all the coins, because they can flood the market with coins when the price is too high, and they can buy back the coins when the price is low.
Right.
But they're basically acting the same way as the Fed does in the US.
Exactly. It's like, if we're creating new virtual worlds, why did we not fix the problem of the real world in the virtual world so we don't have that problem again, particularly with something like economics?
Yeah, or real estate.
Or real estate. Perfect.
Why can't I be allocated a plot of land as a user? So the first time I log into the platform, I get allocated a plot of land at random, which is the same size as everybody else's plot of land. Maybe I develop it, maybe I flip that, maybe I build something on it, maybe I do something with it, maybe I don't. You could do the same model as mobile phone numbers or number plates. Everyone gets a number plate or a mobile phone number allocated to them by being on the network. You buy a car, you get a number plate. You buy a phone, you get a phone number. If you want a premium number, you can pay extra for that. If you want a premium number plate, you can pay extra for that. But everyone gets a number plate. It's allocated to them just for being in the network. And I don't see why the metaverse can't be the same. That if you just by participating, you get a plot of land. It might not be next to Snoop Dogg, and it might not be it might not be the best piece of land, but at least it's a piece of land that you get just for playing, just for being there. And then if you want to upgrade, you pay a little bit more. But at the moment, it's like, no, you've got to buy your land in every single metaverse, irrespective of whether that metaverse is going to win or not.
Right.
Inconceivable. You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
So my rant this week is about the word, and it's not really a word at all. It's just something that's become part of the jargon.
I know what you're going to say.
Phi. Strange. 2 letters, F-I, Foxtrot, India. Or is it Indigo? Is it India or Indigo?
I think it's Indigo, but it's okay.
Indigo. Anyway, you'll love this. So I was working at OSN, which is this broadcaster in Dubai, the Middle East, and I was in the product team. And the product team were a great bunch of guys. We used to have a lot of fun. And at the time, OSN was really into agile. I mean, they thought they were really, everything was agile this. And we actually printed out screenshots or memes from the Princess Bride.
Yeah.
And you know where I'm going with this because you're a big Princess Bride fan, right? So do you remember in the Princess Bride, There's the guy who's like,
I do not think
he keeps saying inconceivable. and the other guy keeps saying, I don't think you know I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Right.
So phi is one of those words, right? So currently being used to things like DeFi, Creatify, whatever else. So I went back and I thought, oh yeah, okay. DeFi kind of makes sense. But then I thought, hang on a second. DeFi and Wi-Fi, the phi means something completely different in each of those abbreviations. So then I started thinking about the Marines in the US, right? It's all about Semper Fi, yeah?
Right.
So Semper Fi is Latin, short for Semper Fidelis, which basically in that situation, the phi means faithful. Then we go into the 60s and 70s. I'm not exactly sure when hi-fi came about, but hi-fi stood for high fidelity. So the phi stood for fidelity. In Wi-Fi, for some bizarre reason, the phi also stands for fidelity. I don't really understand why they called Wi-Fi, but it still stands for fidelity in Wi-Fi. But in DeFi, phi stands for?
Finance.
And in Creatify, it stands for finance. So I'm just, that was my thing this week. I just got to thought, I don't think that word means what you think it does.
Well, you know that there's this, on a larger sense, there's like the whole kind of thing where people want to shorten things and abbreviate things. It's like even with emojis, like people just talk in emojis, but it's like everybody wants to shorten words and make it more like, it's the way we kind of have done with news. Everything's like a sound bite, right? Like everything's like a shortened version.
Like gate. If you
exactly.
Anything that's a scandal, you add the word gate. Because
gate to it.
Obviously, everyone was
100%.
Everyone remembers Nixon, don't they?
Right.
Not. Boris Johnson's being like called out on a thing called Partygate, which is adding the word gate to the end of it because of something that happened when Nixon was president.
Right. It's so bizarre. It's got to have a hook. It's got to be catchy and short. So it's our need to brand everything. So
phi can mean three different things depending on which abbreviation you're talking about. Hi-Fi, Wi-Fi, DeFi, Semper Fi. It's all, each one of those phis has got a different meaning, but gate always means scandal.
We're gonna have to put our heads together and come up with a new one. And we're going to just start socializing it.
Oh, this reminds me of my friend Steve Wood will love this, but we used to put in our proposal documents and our specs, our technical specs and our requirements documents. I know you're not big on requirements, but this was back in the day. Somewhere in each of those documents, we would always put a flux capacitor.
Did anybody ever notice?
Just to see if anyone was actually reading the documents that we were doing. We're like, technical spec, Part A, Section C, requirement for flux capacitor.
Nobody ever picked it up. That's great. That is awesome.
Of course, no one knows what a flux capacitor is these days, except for your and my generation.
I don't think younger generations have the desire. I don't think it's the capacity. I think it's the desire to absorb and be able to regurgitate at a moment's notice trivial knowledge. They love memes.
Maybe they've changed. Maybe they've latched onto something else. I don't know.
Well, like my kids who are 17 and 22 love memes. And like they brought up a meme the other day and they're like, do you remember this old meme? And it was like from like 2015, which is hilarious, right? It's old meme. And it's the Leroy Jenkins one. Have you ever seen that?
I don't know who that is.
So it's a video on YouTube of these kids playing World of Warcraft from way back when World of Warcraft first came out, and they're doing
when you had to paint your own figures.
No, not that far back. Like the online version. Like you're thinking like the real World of Warcraft. Like when it first came out online, and people would do raiding parties. You ever play this game or games like it?
No.
So you get together with a bunch of your friends and they do a raid party. Like you go do a mission together because you literally needed that many people to succeed at doing it.
Okay.
And so they're all standing outside the mission talking about what their strategy is going to be. And they're preparing to go do this thing that they've probably prepared for like a week, right? Like these 8 or 10 people. And like one guy in the group's like, and he just yells out, Leroy Jenkins. And he runs in and they're like, oh shit. And they all follow to help him and they all get killed.
Who is Leroy Jenkins?
That's just the character's name. He just yells it out.
Okay.
And so my kids think, I mean, I saw it years ago, but like my kids, I think just discovered it and they think it's hilarious. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Leroy, just Google, go to YouTube and search Leroy Jenkins.
Okay. I think one of my favorite memes is the Obi-Wan Kenobi one where he says,
which one is?
Where he says, hey, now that's a drive letter I haven't heard for a very long time.
Oh, I've never seen that one. You gotta send me that one.
Yeah. I mean, but it's a reference to a line he has in Star Wars, but which is 40 years old now. 45 years old now, or something like that.
Can you even believe that? That it's 45 years old now.
Crazy.
And guess what? In a week, there will be an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show for you to enjoy. Everything that's old is new again. I played many games online back in the day. Not any of those. Like, I guess I played World of Warcraft for a little while. I played one called City of Heroes that was like that, but it was like superheroes instead of like, medieval, whatever. And you play them for a long time and you build your character up and you get really powerful and then like nothing can kill you. And then you get bored and then you become like, have you ever heard the gaming term griefer?
No.
That's when you go around and you just like, you're like, oh, you get a lot of people that are lower level players with you and they come into the game and they want to level up fast. So they try to get people of characters that are higher level to take them on missions or quests with them so they can level up faster, right? Yeah. And so you're like, yeah, sure, come with me. I'll take care of you. And you take them on missions and then you get them killed on purpose and you steal their shit. That's called a griefer. So I used to do that a lot when I got really good and I get bored. I would like be like some little 12-year-old kid would be like, hey, can you take me out and help me level up fast? I'll be like, sure, kid, come on. And then I would take him out and just take him into like a cave full of monsters. And then I would just leave him there and just let him get killed because I was a bad person.
So you didn't just sell your account to someone for cash?
No, I just abandoned it eventually. I just got tired of playing. I was like, meh.
Fair enough.
Because that's how I am. I really get in this, like I get hyper focus, an ADD problem. Like I get into a game like that and then I hyper focus and I can't stop playing it until I master it. And then once I master it, I don't want to play it anymore. I'm just like, meh, and I turn it off.
Right. Which is why.
And then that's why I transitioned to PlayStation, right? Like my kids, when they were young, they didn't know how to play computer games. Like I preferred computer gaming. And then I switched to the console, which took a long time to learn the controls. But like with the PlayStation games, like you just turn that shit off and walk away from it.
Yeah. I've actually retrieved my PlayStation from the warehouse in Dubai.
Did you bring it home?
I do have it. I now have my PlayStation back with me.
I bet you're thrilled to have it back, aren't you?
Well, the thing that I've forgotten is that I can watch Netflix and YouTube and basically use it as my entertainment hub. So I've got this this TV that's sort of the one that's in our bedroom, and now that's the entertainment hub without me having to plug my iPad into an HDMI cable or using Chromecast or something else. I can just that's my excuse for having the PlayStation plugged in, is that's what we watch Netflix on. Right. You got 30 seconds to tell me about your hat.
Oh, my LSU hat?
Yeah.
It's me supporting my wife's alma mater.
There we go.
That's exciting.
I'm obviously wearing the Pilote merch this week. So
I know mine's buried under my my pile of 700 hats.
I've got the Pilote merch, and this shirt is actually a shirt I designed for my Dubai sailing team. This is the shirt that I designed for their Dubai Muscat campaign this year. It's very retro. It's very 1970 something.
I dig it.
It's got the sunset. It's got the teal blue thing going on.
I did not put as much thought into my wardrobe today as you did.
No, this is literally what was lying on the floor. But,
I was like, oh, I have an LSU shirt. It's clean. I'll just wear the hat that goes with it.
Well, there you go. Well, we did get a comment on the hats this week on LinkedIn, so I thought we should. It's not a great topic for radio, but for those of you following along at home, it's Pilote merch LSU.
Once again, always a pleasure. Glad you're back home in Greece or back in your temporary home. Keep me posted on your meanderings. Maybe one of these days I'll digital nomad and come and visit and stay with you and wherever you are at that point. I'm ready to get out.
You'd love Greece. Good food.